You stand in front of the mirror this morning, and the part down the middle of your hair is wider than it was last spring. You comb it forward, you comb it back, but you cannot hide it anymore. And the worst part? Your granddaughter's wedding is in 3 months. In the next 15 minutes, I am going to show you why the prescription foam and the $40 shampoos failed you. I am going to show you why one humble vegetable from a Korean grandmother's kitchen has shut down hair loss in folks I have walked alongside for over 55 years. And I am going to show you the one thing your body stops making after 60 that no food on earth can replace. The reason your shampoos failed has nothing to do with the brand. It has nothing to do with the price. The hair on your head is the tip of an iceberg, and the part you cannot see, the part beneath the scalp, is starving. No cream, no foam, no serum can feed a starving follicle from the outside. That is biology. That is 55 years of watching the same thing in real bodies. Here is what your dermatologist did not tell you, and the reason is structural, not personal. Hair loss does not fit in a 15-minute appointment, and the real cause sits 2 feet below the scalp, in the belly. After the age of 60, the friendly bacteria in your gut drop by nearly 50%, half of them gone, and the bacteria you have left cannot make the postbiotic compounds your body uses to keep inflammation low, hormones balanced, and the scalp quietly fade. When the soil down below is empty, the garden up top cannot grow. Now think about that for a moment. By the time you are 65 or 70, you are running on half a gut. The other half died off slowly through years of medications, antibiotics, and the modern food that did not nourish what fed you. Most folks will spend the rest of their lives chasing the symptom in the mirror without ever feeding the soil that grows the hair. But there is something the Korean grandmothers and the bush healers in my own hills figured out long before any laboratory confirmed it. There is one humble vegetable that holds the key to clearing the bloodstream that feeds the scalp. And there is one thing the body stops making after 60 that you cannot get from any vegetable on earth. Stay with me, because the order matters. If you skip the second part, you will see only half the result. My name is Ezekiel Campbell. For over 55 years, I have walked the hills above Kingston, learning the plants my grandfather taught me, and his grandfather before him. 7 generations of my family have served the people of the Blue Mountains as bush healers. My credentials live in the soil of these hills and in the bodies of the folks who keep coming back year after year, decade after decade. My grandfather sat me down when I was a boy of 9, and he said, "Zeke, all sickness begins in the belly. The belly is the root. When the root is sick, every leaf and branch above it suffers. The hair on your head, the calm in your sleep, the strength in your legs, all of it grows from the soil down below." He said it before any modern researcher ever wrote the words gut-skin axis. He just watched the bodies in our village, and he watched what worked. My grandmother Pearl had hair that fell to her waist when she was 83 years old. The women in our hills, the ones who eat from the garden every morning, they keep their hair into their 90s. And on the other side of the world, the Korean grandmothers I learned from when I was older keep theirs the same way, with the same humble vegetable on their breakfast plate. 2 cultures, 15,000 kilometers apart, working with the same medicine. The vegetable is the red onion. The Korean grandmothers call it yang pa. In our hills, we just call it the country onion. It is the same plant. It is the same medicine. The red onion holds a compound called quercetin. Quercetin is what gives the skin its purple-red color, and it is the most active flavonoid in any vegetable you can buy at a market. Think of quercetin like a tiny cleaning crew. When you eat it, it travels through the bloodstream and sweeps out the inflammatory signals that strangle your follicles. It is the broom that finally clears the dust from a corner of the body that has not been swept in years. But quercetin is only one of the tools. The red onion also holds organosulfur, the same compound that makes your eyes water when you cut it. This sulfur is the building block of keratin, the very protein your hair is made from. So when you eat raw red onion every morning, you are doing two things at once. You are sweeping the bloodstream clean of inflammation, and you are delivering the raw lumber the follicle needs to build new hair. Here is the part that matters most after 60. Your body's natural glutathione, the master internal cleaner, drops by nearly 40% after the age of 60. Quercetin from the red onion has been shown to recharge that glutathione almost back to youthful levels. The old ones knew this without ever using the words. They watched it work in the village, and they passed the food down to their daughters. A clinical trial published in the Journal of Dermatology in 2002 followed 38 patients with patchy hair loss for 6 weeks. Those who used raw onion juice on the scalp and ate it daily showed visible regrowth in nearly 9 out of 10 cases, almost 90%. The bush doctors I came up under would have only smiled at that number. They had been watching it work for 200 years. Now here is exactly how to do it, the way my own grandmother prepared it for me when I was a boy with a thinning patch from a bad fever. You want a red onion? The deeper the color, the better. Slice it in half, peel one half, and chop it into small cubes. Place those cubes in a glass bowl. Pour 2 tablespoons of cold-pressed olive oil over them. Squeeze the juice of half a lemon on top. Add a pinch of sea salt and a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. The pepper matters. Black pepper holds purpurine, and purpurine increases the absorption of quercetin by nearly 15 times. Without the pepper, much of the medicine passes through you. With the pepper, it goes to work. Let it sit 10 minutes before you eat it. Eat it on an empty stomach, first thing in the morning, before any medication, before your coffee. Cooking the onion destroys the medicine. The healing lives in the raw bite. If you take blood thinners, please speak with your doctor first. The vitamin K and quercetin in onion can interact with certain medications, but for most folks over 60, this is the safest, oldest medicine on earth. Let me tell you about Eleanor. She came to me last spring, 71 years old, a retired nurse from Charleston, South Carolina. She had been losing hair on the crown of her head for nearly 5 years. She had tried everything: the biotin pills, the $40 shampoos, the laser cap her son bought her for Christmas. I started her on the morning red onion, exactly the way I just described it to you. By week 10, the part of her hair was narrower by a clear 1/4 inch. The shedding had slowed. The scalp looked pinker when she parted her hair, which means blood was flowing again. She was happy, but here is what was overlooked in her case. And here is what the onion alone could not fix. Eleanor had spent 40 years on antibiotics for chronic infections. Her gut was burned out. Half of her friendly bacteria were gone, and the other half were too tired to produce what her scalp needed. The onion was sweeping the bloodstream, but the soil down below was still empty. By month 4, her regrowth had stalled. She came back to me on her porch one evening, frustrated. She said, "Papa, I thought this was working," and I told her, "The onion got you halfway home. We have to feed the soil now." So I added the second piece of the protocol. And by month 7, her crown showed nearly 30% more density than when she had walked in. She started looking in the mirror again. Before I show you what I added for Eleanor, do me one small favor. Hit that subscribe button. It takes 2 seconds and it costs you nothing. When you subscribe, you help me reach more folks who are looking for honest answers about their bodies after 60. I read every comment, and I share what folks tell me works in real life, week after week. Now let me show you the missing piece. When you turn 60, the friendly bacteria in your gut have already been dropping for years. By 65, they are at half of what they were when you were 30. And here is the part most folks have never heard. The good bacteria alone are not enough. They need 3 things to actually heal you, and your body cannot get all 3 from food once the gut has thinned out. Think of it like a garden. The probiotic is the seed. The prebiotic fiber is the soil that feeds the seed. And the postbiotic, the actual healing compound, is the fruit the plant produces: seed, soil, fruit, all three working together. If you only swallow probiotics, you are throwing seeds onto dead soil. They cannot take root. They cannot bear fruit. The bottle says 10 billion live cultures, and you are no better off than before. This is the trap. The shelves are full of probiotic pills, and folks over 60 buy them by the case, and almost none of them work because the soil is empty and the seeds have nowhere to take hold. So I went looking. I am a man of the hills, and I trust the plants my grandfather taught me. But I am also a man who watches what works, and I had folks coming to me asking for something I could put in their hand. I spent 2 years searching. I read the labels, I watched the trials. Most of what I found was empty marketing wrapped in pretty boxes. Then I came across one called BoochBod. And what stopped me was that it carried what my grandfather would have called the 3 legs of the soil itself, all 3 pieces, not just the seed, the soil, and the fruit, the probiotic, the prebiotic, and the postbiotic, all in the same gentle dose. 2 of the strains are clinically studied, lactospore, which actually survives the journey through the stomach acid, where most probiotics die before they ever reach the gut, and postbiotics LM1004, the postbiotic compound that feeds the inner soil and helps your body produce its own healing fruit again, the way it did when you were young. And then when I read further, I found something that made me sit back in my chair. It also holds dandelion root and slippery elm, the very same 2 plants my grandfather pulled from the hills above Kingston when I was 9 years old. The plants of my own lineage sitting in this little jar. That was the moment I knew. This was the missing piece I had been hunting for. The one I could put in a senior's hand and tell them, eat the onion in the morning, take this with the onion, and the soil will come alive again. And here is the other thing that mattered to me. It is a gummy, not a pill. After 60, you have already swallowed a lifetime of bitter pills. Pills for pressure, pills for cholesterol, pills for the joints that ache when you stand up. The last thing you need is another hard tablet on the back of your tongue. This one is sweet. You chew it like a piece of candy. It feels like something you give yourself, not something you force down. Over 30,000 folks are using it now, most of them over 60. The body knows what to do, my friend. It just needed the soil fed. If you want to give it a try, the link sits in the description below this video. They offer a 60-day promise. If your body does not feel different after 2 months, you send it back, no questions asked, and they refund every $1. So you are not risking anything except the chance that this finally works for you. Please speak with your own doctor before starting any supplement. But after 55 years of watching bodies come back from places folks said they could not, I will tell you plainly, this is the missing piece. This is what feeds the soil after 60. Now let me tell you about Robert. Robert was 68 when he came to me, a retired teacher from Bozeman, Montana. He had watched the crown of his head thin out for 9 years. He had been a long-haul trucker before teaching, drinking coffee through every night shift for 15 years, and his sleep had never recovered. The cellular repair window had been closed in him for so long that even good food was not reaching the scalp. I started Robert on the morning onion, and by week 8, the front edge of his hairline had stabilized. The shedding stopped, but his crown, the back of the head, where the damage was deepest, did not move. The soil there was the most beaten up. The follicles needed something the onion could not give them on its own. So at week 9, I added BoochBod, 1 gummy a day with the morning onion. Within 3 weeks of adding it, his sleep deepened. By the end of month 3, the crown of his head had filled in by nearly 40%. He sent me a photograph of himself standing next to his grandson at the boys' graduation, and he wrote, "Papa, I look like myself again. I almost forgot what that looked like." The onion got Robert started. The gummy is what carried him home. Once you have these 2 pieces in place, the morning onion and the soil-feeding gummy, there is one more practice that can deepen the result for folks who want to go further. The Korean grandmothers call it yang pacha, onion water in our hills. You take the dry peppery skin from the red onion you used in the morning, the part you would normally throw away, and you simmer it in 2 cups of water for 15 minutes. Strain it into a mug, drop in a small piece of fresh ginger, stir in a teaspoon of raw honey, only after you turn the heat off, and sip it warm 45 minutes before bed. The skin of the red onion holds nearly 6 times the quercetin of the flesh inside. The grandmothers were thrifty, and they were also wise. They simmered what others discarded. But hear me when I say this, the young pacha is the polish, not the foundation. If you skip feeding the soil down below, the broth cannot reach the follicle that is starving for what it cannot reach. The pieces work together. The food sweeps, the soil feeds, the nighttime broth deepens. Here is what I want you to hear before we say goodbye. The hair on your head matters. But what matters more is the morning you stand at the kitchen window with your second cup of coffee, watching the light come through the curtain, and you feel like yourself again. The grandmother who used to braid her hair without thinking. The man who let the barber cut it any way he pleased, because there was always more growing back. It is never too late, my friend. The body that grew you a full head of hair when you were 17 still knows how. Those follicles are sleeping, waiting for what they need. At 70, at 75, at 80, they wake up when the food is right and the soil is fed. If you are ready to feed the soil, the BoochBod link is waiting for you in the description below. 60-day promise, no questions asked. Whenever you are ready, it is there for you. Walk softly, eat from the garden. May the hills above your own house keep you well, my friend.